everyone. I'm not taking any questions today, so please don't pop questions up because I don't have time to take questions today. And my reason for not taking them is I really want to talk to you about how we sleep. I did a feed yesterday and I talked about sleep cycles, and it surprised me at how many people didn't actually understand how babies sleep. And people were very confused. Babies do not sleep in sleep cycles when they are first born. As adults, we sleep in sleep cycles. So we sleep in a shallow sleep cycle, and then we sleep into deep sleep cycles, which causes like one whole sort of sleep window. As adults, everyone understands that we sleep in sleep cycles, but as infants, we do not sleep in sleep cycles, which means people often say to me, but my baby can string sleep cycles together at night, but they're not stringing sleep cycles together during the day. And I find this amazing that people don't realise babies aren't sleeping in sleep cycles at night because they're not sleeping in sleep cycles. So they're not stringing sleep cycles together at night. It's because they haven't reached the point of surfacing between sleep cycles at night. Maybe it's something to do with the fact that babies need to feed at night, and we know that babies need to wake up and they need to feed at night. Maybe that's why they don't sleep in sleep cycles at night, but they don't. So what happens is when you first have your baby, when you have a brand new little newborn baby, they should be able to be fed, and if they are well fed and they are warm enough, they should just sleep. So when your baby is first born and you're in the hospital, they should be able to be fed, and then if they're warm enough, go to sleep. They don't need much food in the first few days. They just need a tiny little bit of colostrum. They don't need much food. They should be able to have a little feed. I always recommend you feed for a small amount of time, a few minutes on one boob, a few minutes on the other boob, a small amount of time every 3 hours to get your breasts used to feeding. But they should be able to feed, and then if they're nice and warm, they should sleep. If they're not, there's something wrong. You're missing something. That you need to talk to your midwife about, or your maternal health nurse. You need to work out why your baby isn't sleeping. Because babies are not sleeping in sleep cycles, you can rock a baby to sleep, pat a baby to sleep, cuddle a baby to sleep in those very first few weeks. And it doesn't really matter how you get them to sleep, because you can put them asleep and then you can put them down in their safe place. I recommend a mini crib for them to sleep, and they will stay asleep. You can allow them to suck on a dummy, you can pat them, and they will stay asleep. But come 8 weeks, some babies start sleeping in sleep cycles as young as 8 weeks. Some babies, it's a bit older. It's normally around 6 kg, which is often around 8 weeks. When they start sleeping in sleep cycles, you will rock them to sleep, pat them to sleep, let them suck on a dummy to go asleep, and then the sleep cycle kicks in and they wake up and they go, oh, where's my dummy gone? Where's the patting gone? Where's the boob gone? And this is when we see daytime sleep cycles kick in, and this is when catnapping starts. Now, those babies who cannot self-settle will then start to wake at night. At about 9 kg, which in some babies is 5 months and some babies is 7 months, nighttime sleep cycles start. So the baby will have a dummy or be patted or rocked to go asleep at night time, and then they will wake up during the night after a sleep cycle, and they cannot get back to sleep because it's changed. Now this is really, really dangerous, because if your baby is having now we're talking about an older baby, a 7-month-old baby, is having a breastfeed to fall asleep, and then they sleep for an hour, and then they need another breastfeed to get back to sleep, and then they sleep for an hour, and they need another breastfeed to get back to sleep. Your baby is not reaching deep sleep. Deep sleep is when a baby does its growing and it sort of does its filing. It's like, imagine your computer cleaning itself and doing all the filing at night. This happens in the deep sleep. The deep sleep is really, really important. Your baby needs deep sleep. Deep sleep is achieved by teaching your baby how to self-settle themselves and by having enough bedding. If you do not have enough bedding, your baby will get cold. If your baby gets cold, they will not sleep properly at night. If your baby is old enough to roll and they do not have enough bedding, your baby will flip to its tummy. So the bedding guide is really, really important. This is the most dangerous time of year for babies because they flip to their tummies because they are cold, and then they're at risk of SIDS. Now, I'm just going to scroll back up and see. A lady, Alicia, asked, I wasn't taking questions, but Alicia asked for some tips Any tips for self-settling with newborn? I'm struggling to get my 5-week-old son to self-settle. Okay, so Alicia, at 5 weeks old, you're 5-week-old, you should be breastfeeding your 5-week-old on the breastfeeding routine, or if you're bottle feeding, on the bottle feeding routine. You should be able to feed your baby, and then at the time on the routine, wrap your baby up and put them to bed. If you're finding that your baby is not able to get himself or herself to sleep, there is something wrong. Either your baby is hungry or you're not using enough bedding to make your baby feel safe and secure. You might not be wrapping your baby. So I would suggest following the routine. If you're not on the routine yet, I would suggest following the routine, and you could wrap your baby up at the sleep time and sit and hold your baby and encourage your baby to sleep in your arms while you're wide awake. If you feel like you're falling asleep, put your baby down in its bed. But you could sit with your baby and let them sleep in your arms to get on the routine. Once you're on the routine and you have the sleep times happening on the routine, the feeding should then fall into place. So you can follow the routine, but help your baby to sleep when you first start it, and then once your baby is on the feeding routine, you can then start putting your baby down in their cot to teach them how to self-settle. You would leave them for as long as you can leave them for, having a bit of a yell or cry, that's okay. And then if it gets to the point where you think they're not settling, you can come in and pat them, or, rub their tummy and help them to fall asleep. You need to look at the bedding. If your baby is 5 weeks old and really is not self-settling, I would think that we're missing something. We either don't have the bedding right, or your baby's hungry and we don't have the feeding right. So I would be looking at those things. I would be looking at, could your baby be hungry, or are you not using enough bedding? Okay. So remember, sleep cycles start in the day at about 8 weeks. They start at night at about roughly 7 months. Hopefully this helps you to understand sleep cycles a little bit more. I will be taking more questions tomorrow. I'm not taking questions today. I just wanted to have a chat to you about sleep cycles. And remember that if your baby has the correct bedding and they do start sleeping in sleep cycles at night, if they're putting themselves to sleep, so if they're actually physically self-settling themselves and they have enough bedding, they should manage to just sleep. It's a bit scary when you're first having a baby, because lots of people say, oh, you're never going to sleep again. It's not true. If you have your baby on a good routine and you're following the correct bedding advice and your baby isn't hungry, you will sleep. You will only have no sleep for the first 8 to 10 weeks, and then your baby will start sleeping through the night. And if your baby isn't, we are here to help you. There would be a reason why your baby isn't sleeping, and we're here to help you. The online advice area, we offer help with helping you to get your baby on the routine and sleeping all night. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and I will be back tomorrow to take some more questions. Thanks. Bye.